Hi, my name's Tim Sanderson, and I'm the General Manager of Lethbridge Transit, and I'm here today to go over a presentation on our fare strategy proposals. We're here to solicit input from the public and hope that you find this presentation informative. So to start off with, a little bit of background on our fare collection system. Our current fare collection system has reached the end of its life. As you can see from the picture here, that's our BEA fare boxes. And the fare structure that we used was a product of the capabilities and limitations of this system. So basically what the standard for technology was back in 2010, that really limited the possibilities for our ways to collect fares back then. Rather than address system inequities, the system became more complex, as the next slide shows. From this slide, you can see we've got a fairly complex fare structure where we've got regular fares, reduced fares, a number of different free categories, and then we also contract with post-secondary with the university and with the schools as well. So you can see there's multitude ways to pay, and again, a lot of that is really just from the left over from the limitations of our fare box system. Current challenges that we have with our fare structure, the first one is that casual use is discouraged. So at a $3 base fare, it is not economical for a person to get on the bus and take it for a few blocks. $3 is fairly hefty. That doesn't seem so bad for a trip across town, but for those shorter trips, the fare is a disincentive to it. The day pass is also not priced proportionately. Not only that, it's not available on buses. Generally speaking, a day pass should be about equal to a fare for going to work in the morning and then coming home in the evening. Not being available on buses means we end up with very, very low sales of day passes. We have no weekly pass. A lot of systems do use the weekly pass. That really comes in handy for especially months where people aren't working all the time, or they're not using it, or they're going someplace, so that they can choose to buy their pass by the week rather than by the month. Deep discounts are not applied uniformly based upon equity. Again, by simply just having that monthly pass with the deep discount and then another deep discount for seniors, there is, again, a lack of equity between both of those, and really relies on people making a fairly substantial investment at some point in time, whether or not they use it or not. And then the fare media distribution system is cumbersome. Reloading your Breeze card is not easy in a lot of cases, and we are in a day and age now where most of this stuff should be able to be done online. Just going over a little bit of our revenue distribution for Lethbridge Transit. First of all, and again, this comes as a shock to some people, but we don't cover our entire budget with fares. As a matter of fact, only 13% of our budget is generated from fares. The other pieces come from advertising at about $600,000 a year, advertising and other forms of revenue, and then $15 million in tax subsidy from the city. In taking a look at the actual fares, you can see that by far and away the two greatest categories of fare are the adult category and the UPass. And if you take all the other fares, the reduced fares, so that's seniors and youth, and demand response fares, less than $500,000 for both of those a year, so very small percentage. Different structures were tested using an elasticity model for our fare strategy, just to see how we can hopefully redistribute this pot without actually reducing the amount of revenue that we bring in. So what is elasticity? So elasticity is a measure of measuring the demand of a certain product in proportion with price. So generally speaking, when prices rise, demand drops. When prices drop, demand rises. That's simple economics. But it's not a one-for-one relationship. So what is the relationship between prices and usage on transit systems? What we set our elasticity at, so what that ratio, at 0.35, that's the industry standard generally for what it is, and we cross-checked it with historical data as well. And we did it across different fare categories, really in order to measure what the impact is going to be on our ridership with different changes in prices in different categories. In doing that, we created a very complex model that measures all of this across all of our ridership and all of our revenue coming in, and used 2021 data as the base value for all of these predictions. Now, 2021 obviously was a little bit of a different year coming out of COVID, but since we still are coming out of COVID and the effects of this are coming out of COVID, we felt that this would be the best model in order to go forward. The big thing with the model is it only considers changes in pricing, not other factors that influence ridership. Weather, for example, has a big impact on ridership. Whether there's a bus in front of your house has a big influence on ridership. The amount of time it takes your trip has a big influence on ridership. We're not measuring any of those things. We're only measuring the difference in price. And the reason we're doing this is to compare scenarios on an even playing field without bringing too many variables into it, and just to really see what the impact of pricing will have on our ridership and our revenue. We did make some logical assumptions when putting together this model, and in accordance with the elasticity model, of course, a reduction in fare will lead to increased ridership, and an increase in fare will lead to decreased ridership, again at that ratio generally of 0.35, although it does get modified by fare type. Removing barriers to fare payment will lead to an increase in ridership. Again, the easier it is for somebody to pay their fare, the more likely they are to ride the bus. Especially if they have easier access to get deep discount passes. Fare capping will lead to more efficient travel costs for customers. Everybody's probably saying, well, what the heck is fare capping? We'll talk about that in a little bit, but basically it's capping the cost, your transit costs at set amounts. And then the last logical assumption is that sufficient capacity exists to accommodate increased ridership at no cost. Again, basically that means we have room on buses for people to ride more. We have 4 desired outcomes for this strategy. The first one is that the fare structure should not adversely affect the transit operating budget. We're not doing this in order to generate more revenue. We want to keep our revenue stream the same. Conversely, we also don't want to lose revenue because a loss of revenue would mean that we have to cut services because our goal is to stay budget neutral. The fare structure should be readily accessible and easy to understand. Again, we want to make something that's simple for people to understand and easy to use. The fare structure should encourage ridership. Again, because of those pricing models that we've talked about, we can encourage ridership through strategic pricing. And then the fare structure should improve equity. Again, so that under the current system with the $3 cash fare, the people who have the least ability to pay end up paying the most because they're paying a $3 cash fare every time they get on the bus. Fare simplification is a tangent that we also want to do, again, in order to improve the system. So to improve with equity and ease of system use, the following fare categories will no longer be offered. These are really niche categories and due to low sales. A new fare structure will be more equitable for the majority of users. So when we get to the different models, if you do purchase one of these passes and take a look at what your cost is today and what your proposed cost would be, we think that it's generally going to be in the same ballpark. But we're talking about elimination of the post-secondary pass, the annual senior pass, the student summer pass, and that's a whole total of 127 in annual sales. So again, it's a very small amount of passes that we sell in a year. So as promised, we were going to talk about fare capping and a little bit more of an explanation for it. So what is fare capping? Generally, fare capping automatically provides the most economical fare by limiting your cost to a set cap. And you can set that cap, at least with our system, in 3 different ways. So you can set a daily cap, a weekly cap, and a monthly cap. Fare capping eliminates the need for passes or tickets because it uses your phone, credit card, or debit card in order to calculate what your fare is going to be based upon your usage. So the same card should be used in order to leverage capping. So every time you tap the card, it sees how many rides you're doing in a day. But that also means that cash sales are not eligible for fare capping because there is no way of knowing it. So here's some examples for fare capping. Again, these are just examples. These aren't actual proposals that we're making. These are really just to illustrate how fare capping works. On the left, you can see that this is a sample of a person who's taken 4 trips and he has a $7.50 day pass with capping on it. So a number of different things. Either they could pre-purchase a $7.50 day pass in order to, and would pay $7.50 for their travel. But more likely, if they had 4 trips, they would pay $3 every time they got on the bus, and that shows down the line. So a total of $12 for the day. With capping, again, the person would tap their debit, credit card, or phone, and by the time they got to the 3rd cap, instead of it charging them $3, it would charge them $1.50. Then there would be no charge for that 4th ride, that 4th tap that happens, so it would automatically cap them at $7.50. Again, we can set those prices at whatever we want. On the other side is monthly capping, and this really shows by week. Currently, if a person wants to purchase a monthly pass, they have to purchase it in advance, whether or not they use it or not. They're spending $77 on it. Under the fare capping system, if they rode every day, twice a day, going to and from work 5 days a week, they would spend $30 in their first week. They would spend $30 in their second week. And then after they've spent $17 in their 3rd week, they would have no more charges for the remainder of week 3 and for week 4. Again, totaling $77 at that point in time. Again, so the same price over the month, but again, it just works. It works better for those people who may not use the entirety of the monthly bus pass. And the best thing about it is you don't actually need a Breeze card. It'll work on your debit card, your credit card, or your phone. So here's some fare structure scenarios that we have. These aren't the only scenarios. We're in engagement and we actually want to hear from people and hear their thoughts about what's important to them. So the proposals that go to council may look different from any one of these scenarios. The first slide that we have here is not a scenario, it is our current structure, just for a point of context. Again, $3 single ride fare, $7.50 day pass, and a $77 monthly pass, $28 reduced fare. That is our fare structure, but when we put it on the model, just because of pricing and the inequities that are built into it, we anticipate a 2% annual decrease in revenue ridership. The first replacement scenario that we're proposing, again, is basically the same fare structure, except instead of purchasing passes, there's caps. So your single ride would be $3 with transfer. There would be a daily cap of $7.50 for both fares, and then a monthly cap of $77 for regular, $28 for a reduced fare. This, when we run it on the model, this has very little impact on ridership, but does have a significant decrease on our revenue, which again, we believe council will not support. And part of the reason is because many of our customers now are purchasing monthly passes that they're not getting the full utility out of. Under this system, we're going to have less people paying $77 a month because they'll be rewarded through fare capping. Based upon this, we feel that we would need a substantial increase in ridership in order to break even, and the pricing on this does not influence increased ridership. And it also doesn't address any of the equity issues that we were talking about as well, again, because it's still a $3 cash fare generally. Scenario B and the rest of the scenarios all take a bit of a different track. Scenario B has daily and monthly fare caps applied, and we've also reduced the base fares down to $1.50. Now, it's $1.50 base fare, but no transfers will no longer be offered. So every time somebody gets on the bus, it's $1.50 in order to get on. Again, that helps equity a lot because a lot of those shorter trips will now only become $1.50. We've reduced the daily cap down to $6. So under the current system, if you go to work and from work, you're paying $3 one way, $3 the other way. The daily cap will be the same. So there will be no increase in cost for you. Monthly cap is $77 and the reduced fare is $28. In doing this, we feel that there will be a substantial increase in ridership and a substantial increase in revenue. Again, so we're not going to need any additional ridership really in order to break even because we're going to be generating those additional dollars on off of the daily cap. The challenge with this is, again, there are going to be some people who will end up paying substantially more for their transit as a result of that, and we have some different cappings in order to address those as well and bring that revenue back to neutral. Scenario C is very similar. Daily and weekly fare caps are applied. Rather than monthly cap, we've got a weekly cap on here. Again, we've kept with the reduced base fare, although now it's $1.75 as opposed to $1.50, and transfers are still eliminated in this model. This is when you run it through the model, this has a minimal increase in ridership and a moderate increase in revenue. The reason why it doesn't encourage ridership as much, but still has an increase in revenue, is because the cost for regular riders will increase substantially. With a weekly cap at $24, that means a person who rides all the time is going to be paying $96 a month, so 24 times 4, whereas now they're paying $77 a month. So that's going to discourage some of that ridership, and it's also going to increase the cost for our loyal customers who buy monthly passes. So again, no additional ridership in order to break even, and again, it increases the monthly cost. And finally, scenario D. Scenario D is an all-in version of all of it. So everything from all the other models has kind of got into scenario D, which truly is leveraging the power of capping. So again, single ride, $1.50, transfers would be eliminated. A daily cap of $6 again. So for people who are regular transit riders, keeps their daily cost the same. A week cap of $24. Basically under that, if you ride 5 days a week, you get 1 day for free. And then a monthly cap at $77, which is basically where it is now. So if you are a regular rider that rides all the time, your costs will not increase under this. This provides the greatest equity and options for transit customers, represents a substantial increase in ridership, but keeps our revenue at the same level where we are now, which again was our stated goal. Going on to a couple of other issues. One is demand response. Currently, demand zones do not require fare payment. That's because we don't have fare collection equipment on those vehicles. Obviously, with this, we will be installing fare collection equipment on those vehicles, and so starting January 1st, fare payment will be required. This equipment's also going on our Access-a-Ride vehicles, but we're not proposing any changes for the Access-a-Ride fares. But the advantage is that payment can now be made in a similar way, using cash, debit card, credit card, or using your phone. Similar to what it's going to be like on the bus. The only change that we have is checks will no longer be accepted on paratransit. Just in summary, again, I'm not going to go over the slide because we just went over all of these, but again, just a little bit of a summary, and it shows the ridership impact and the revenue impact of all of the different categories, and basically what the impact is going to be on our revenue and our ridership. Some next steps. Again, we are starting the engagement right now. Engagement runs until March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. After that, we are going to prepare recommendations based upon the engagement, and we are going to present to the Civic Works SPC on May 5th. If everything goes as planned, Council will make a decision on what our fare strategy is going to be on May 10th. During the fall, we will communicate and transition and begin the transition, and then start implementing in late December of 2022. At that point in time, we'll have a process in place for getting the credit off of your Breeze card and transitioning everybody away from the Breeze cards. And then we're taking a look at full transition coming on January 1st. Should you have any questions or comments, we have a number of different ways to engage. Again, you've seen this video on the Get Involved Lethbridge website. Feel free to leave your comment there. We also have a short survey as well, or you can call 311 and leave your comments, or you can email us directly at transit@lethbridge.ca. Again, on behalf of everybody at Lethbridge Transit, thank you for your time, and we are really looking forward to your comments and the discussion that this fare strategy is having. Thank you.